My stepmother ruined my wedding on purpose, and when I found out, the truth shattered everything I thought I knew about family. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Family Confessions so you never miss out on these fascinating stories. And let us know what you're watching today in the comments. People say time softens hurt, but some betrayals sit in your chest like a stone, heavy, unmoving, threatening to crush you when you least expect it. Mine began years ago, long before my wedding day, before the flowers and vows and photographs that should have marked the happiest day of my life. It started the day my father remarried, and I gained a woman who pretended to love me like a daughter, even though her eyes always said otherwise. My biological mother? She left the moment she handed me to this world. No warm memories, no bedtime stories, not even a photo where she's holding me with love. Just absence, sharp and permanent. For years as a kid, I thought I must have been born broken, that something inside me made even my own mother leave. I don't think children ever truly forget the ache of abandonment. It just dulls until life distracts you. My father did his best. He tried to fill every empty space in my life with patience and affection, even when work kept him out late and exhaustion lined his face. When he met Lisa, my stepmother, I was 8. I didn't understand adult loneliness then, not fully, but now I do. He wanted someone to share his life with, someone who could mother me and give us both the family we'd lost. On the surface, she was warm, kind, eager to fit into our lives. But behind my father's back, her tone shifted. Her smiles dropped. She treated me like a guest overstaying in her home, rather than a child she was meant to love. I tried telling Dad once, back when I still believed adults listened to children, but he brushed it off gently. "Sweetheart, she's trying. Let her in. It'll be good for you, for both of you." He needed companionship more than I needed a mother, so I swallowed my discomfort and accepted her presence. I learned early that silence was easier than confrontation, especially when disappointment might follow. She wasn't cruel, not openly, just calculated, doing only what she had to in front of my dad and nothing more. And that subtle neglect stung worse than anger ever could. Years passed, and eventually my father and stepmother had their own child, my little sister, Emma. That girl was and still is sunshine wrapped in a 6-year-old body. I adore her, protect her, love her without hesitation. The age gap doesn't matter. She was a gift. If anything, seeing my stepmother cradle her, love her so naturally, only deepened my understanding. I was tolerated, not cherished. But for Emma, I would endure 1,000 uncomfortable dinners, forced smiles, and holiday pictures where we pretended to be one big, happy American family. Fast forward to my wedding day. My father was supposed to walk me down the aisle, a moment I'd imagined ever since childhood, one of the few core memories I thought I could rewrite into something beautiful. I arrived at the venue glowing, nervous, excited, only to find both my father and stepmother missing. Panic crawled up my spine as I called him. His voice came through trembling. Emma was missing. They were searching everywhere. The words hit like a blow. My baby sister? Gone on my wedding day? I considered canceling the ceremony right there. Nothing mattered more than finding her. But Dad told me we had guests, flights, hours taken off work. "You can't disappoint everyone," he said. "Give me 1 hour." My heart felt split between fear for Emma, heartbreak for my ruined moment, and guilt for feeling any of it when a child was supposedly missing. But I agreed. That hour felt like a lifetime. Guests filled the seats. The music paused. My dress suddenly felt too tight, too heavy. Every whispered conversation sounded like pity. When the hour passed and they still hadn't arrived, I stood at the altar with shaking knees and made a decision I hope no daughter ever has to make. I moved forward without my father. I walked down the aisle alone. I smiled for the cameras, but inside I was collapsing. When my husband squeezed my hand during our vows, I nearly broke. And just minutes after saying "I do," my father called. They were on their way. Relief and rage tangled inside me so violently I felt dizzy. When they finally arrived, breathless and dramatic, I learned the truth. Emma wasn't missing. She'd been picked up after school by her best friend's mom, someone authorized to do so. Then came the cracks in their story, the awkward pauses, the over-apologies. Something in my gut twisted. I asked Emma quietly what happened. Mommy told me to go with Mila, she said innocently, but not to tell anyone. The world froze. Every whisper from childhood, every fake smile, every dismissive glance from Lisa suddenly sharpened into truth. She didn't just dislike me. She resented me, jealous, vengeful. She orchestrated everything so my father would miss the most important moment of my life. She wanted the first bride he walked down the aisle to be her daughter, even if that meant destroying my happiness. A 6-year-old. She was willing to drag a child into this warped, selfish plan. My father confronted her right there, and her confession spilled out like venom coated in self-pity. She believed he gave me too much love, that Emma deserved the spotlight, that I'd always had everything. Hearing her speak was like watching a mask shatter. Underneath wasn't insecurity but entitlement, resentment, and a deep-rooted need to erase me from my own family story. I realized then that she never wanted to be my mother. She wanted me gone, and the saddest part? My dad only saw the truth when it was too late. He missed my wedding, not due to fate but to manipulation. And some scars don't heal with time. They calcify. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply looked at the woman who pretended to raise me and felt something inside me quietly break. I told her she wasn't my mother, never had been, never would be, and that I didn't want her near me again. I left before the rage could swallow me whole, because grief is anger in disguise, and I was drowning in it. Silence has a weight to it, and in the hours after my wedding, it felt like it could crush me. I remember sitting in the car with my husband, still in my gown, mascara smudging at the corners of my eyes though I hadn't shed a single tear. Shock can feel like calm. It's strange. I stared at the window, city lights streaking like ghosts, and tried to process the fact that one of the greatest pains in my life had been manufactured by someone who should have protected me. The next morning wasn't supposed to be like this. We had planned a Thanksgiving luncheon at the church near our new home, a continuation of celebration before flying out for our honeymoon. My husband suggested canceling, gently tracing my hand with his thumb, but I couldn't, not because I wanted to see anyone, particularly not Lisa, but because I refused to let her be the villain in yet another moment of my life. My husband's family is, in his words, quiet, composed, almost boring in the best way. Mine? We heat and simmer and occasionally explode. He once half-joked that being with me made him feel like he'd married into a dramatic TV family. I used to laugh. Now I just hoped we could steer this show toward something resembling peace. When we entered the church hall the next day, the air felt brittle. People smiled too wide, spoke too softly, like everyone was holding a delicate glass plate that might shatter if they moved too fast. And there she was, Lisa. Perfectly coiffed, lips stretched into a polite grin that didn't reach her eyes. Overcompensating. Overly helpful. "Let me grab that," she chirped when someone tried to hand me a tray. "Oh, you look beautiful again today," she gushed with a voice too sweet, like syrup poured over spoiled fruit. All I wanted, truly, was one thing. A real apology. Not theatrics, not excuses wrapped in fragile insecurity. Just acknowledgement. But she wouldn't give it. She smiled and fluttered like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't detonated a bomb in the middle of my life. A real apology would have meant facing her actions, and she was incapable of looking at herself without distortion. My father hovered close to her, as if proximity might keep her from unraveling again. He looked tired, older than the day before. And yet, there was still something in his eyes when he glanced at me. Hope, fear, guilt, maybe all of them tangled together. He had always believed the best in people, especially those he loved. Maybe that was his flaw. Maybe it was his strength. I didn't know anymore. I sat with my husband and focused on my breathing. Out, trying to taste the warmth of gratitude for him, for the few family members who hugged me tightly without saying anything stupid like, "You'll laugh about this one day." I won't. For the friends who stayed behind after the wedding and helped pack our bags quietly, offering comfort without questions. Those small mercies keep a heart steady when betrayal tries to unmake it. The lunch passed in awkward, stretched-out moments. Every time Lisa approached me, my muscles tensed instinctively, like bracing for impact. She complimented my dress, my hair, my decor choices. She acted as if pouring sugar on rot could change the smell. For every fake sweet gesture, something inside me hardened. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is loud, sharp, volatile. What I felt was quieter. Cold, clear, immovable. Resolve. Then, in the middle of passing rolls and polite chatter, she turned to me and said brightly, "My sweet daughter always knows how to throw an event." I'm so proud, daughter. The word hit me like someone had pressed a bruise. A fresh one. I felt something in me snap, gently, like a thread pulled too tight, finally giving way. There's a calm that precedes truth-telling, a stillness like the eye of a storm. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cause a scene. I simply turned to her, let everyone around us hear every syllable, and said, "You are not my mother. Don't call me your daughter. Not today, not ever." Her smile faltered. First confusion, then wounded pride, then indignation bubbling just beneath the surface. She opened her mouth as if to argue, as if the role she refused to play for years was suddenly hers to claim, when it suited her ego. But I didn't give her space. I continued softly but firm. "You didn't support me when I was a child. You tolerated me, and yesterday you proved you'd rather ruin my life than watch me be loved. I won't pretend for you anymore. Leave." The room went still. Forks paused midair. Someone gasped softly. My father's face fell, eyes closing like he'd been struck. My husband placed his hand on my back, grounding me, but he didn't speak. He knew this was mine to say. Lisa sputtered something, excuses, half words, maybe even denial. But I didn't hear them. My heart was thudding too loudly, but my voice stayed steady. "Get out, Lisa, and don't come to my home again." She hesitated, looking to my father like he'd rescue her from accountability. But he didn't. His shoulders sagged. For the first time, I think he understood that loving someone doesn't mean refusing to see them clearly. He took her arm and led her out, face pale, jaw tight. Emma, thankfully, wasn't there to witness any of it. I made sure she wasn't. She deserved innocence a little longer. As the door closed behind them, the room exhaled, a long, tense release. Friends gathered near me, offering soft reassurances. My husband pressed his forehead to mine. Felt not triumphant, but free. Trembling, shaken, but free. Truth has a way of stabilizing even the roughest emotional terrain. But later, after the hugs, the whispered "you did the right thing" comments, the quiet car ride to our house, the weight of my final words hit me. "Don't come near me," especially not Emma, and guilt seeped in, slow and sharp. Because Emma did nothing wrong, and punishing her by cutting myself off. It felt like repeating a wound I spent my whole life trying to heal from. I didn't cry that day. Not because I didn't hurt, but because my body hadn't figured out how to release it yet. Grief sometimes waits until you're safe to arrive. And maybe, for the first time ever, I was choosing safety over family chaos. Months have passed since that day. And yet the memory clings to me like the faint scent of perfume on old clothes, lingering, stubborn, refusing to fade even when I beg life to move forward. People talk about weddings like they're beginnings, but mine became a fracture line dividing everything into before and after. And now I live in the after, holding both love and loss in the same trembling palms. After the Thanksgiving lunch, my husband and I left for our honeymoon, not in a burst of joy, but in quiet retreat, like we were seeking refuge rather than celebration. I remember sitting on the plane, head resting against his shoulder, trying to imagine beaches and laughter and peace, but instead all I saw was my father's face when he led Lisa out of the room. Pain, conflict, shame, a man torn between his daughter and the life he built with someone who never deserved him. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always erupt violently. Sometimes it settles like dust in the corners of your life and waits. On our honeymoon, my husband held me in the ocean as I stared out at the horizon and whispered, "Why wasn't I enough for her?" He kissed my forehead and murmured, "You were always enough. She just wasn't." And yet, knowing that didn't erase the sting. When someone pretends to love you for years but secretly resents your existence, the wound they leave behind is jagged, almost personal in a way language struggles to capture. When we returned home, silence greeted us. Not the calm kind, but the loaded stillness before a storm. My father reached out first. His texts were careful, almost apologetic. "We should talk. I'm sorry. Emma misses you. I didn't respond at first. I didn't know how. I wasn't ready to see him through new eyes, eyes that noticed the cracks in his judgment, the ways love can blind a parent, the ways duty can weigh heavier than truth. Eventually, we met. Sat at my kitchen table, coffee between us, like normalcy could be forced into place if we just held our cups tightly enough. He apologized again, not dramatically, just quietly, like a man carrying a guilt that has settled into his bones. He looked older than I remembered, softer somehow, like the world had scraped away some of his certainty. And then he asked the question that twisted my heart more painfully than anything else. Are you willing to lose Emma too? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because in that moment I realized something raw and terrifying. In protecting myself from Lisa's venom, I had built a wall so high that Emma, my sweet baby sister, my sunshine girl, couldn't reach me anymore. And her tears, her confusion, her tiny voice asking for me through the phone my father held out, they haunted me. Children don't understand collateral damage. They only understand absence. And I knew that pain intimately. The ache of wanting someone who doesn't show up. For days I wrestled with that guilt. I'd wake up at night thinking of her braiding my hair with tiny clumsy fingers, calling me Mimi because she couldn't pronounce my full name yet. I'd remember her sleepy voice asking me to read one more bedtime story, her tiny arms squeezing me like she believed I could protect her from anything, even the dark. And I realized I couldn't be the doorway through which abandonment entered her life. I refused to repeat history, even unintentionally, but healing is not simple. I haven't forgiven Lisa. I don't know if I ever will. She hasn't reached out to apologize or reflect or show any true remorse. She acted wounded, like she was the one betrayed, and my father confessed he's spent months navigating her silent treatment and self-pity. I don't envy him. Loving someone broken is not a sin, but staying blind to the shrapnel they scatter, that's where pain multiplies. I have boundaries now. Firm, not cruel. My father can bring Emma to see me, alone. No Lisa, no surprise visits. No forced holiday scenes where we pretend the past didn't slice through our family like a blade. I told him, voice steady but soft, I will not sacrifice my mental peace so she can pretend she didn't destroy something precious. And he nodded, resigned, knowing I meant every word. The first time I saw Emma again, she ran into my arms like she had been holding her breath for weeks. She whispered, I missed you so much, in that small, trembling way children have when love overwhelms them. I hugged her like she was air, and I had been drowning. My husband watched from the doorway, expression gentle, understanding that this wasn't just reunion. It was rewriting a story that nearly broke me. Now, slowly, life is stitching itself together. My home is peaceful. My marriage is strong. My father visits more often, quiet, humbled, trying in his own flawed way to rebuild trust. Sometimes we sit on the porch with coffee, saying nothing, letting time do what time does best. Soften the edges, never erase them. Trust isn't a switch, it's a process. And I am choosing that process step by cautious step. As for Lisa, she remains outside the walls I built. She stood at the edge of my life pretending to be a mother, and when she couldn't control the spotlight, she tried to steal my moment. I will not give her another piece of me. Not my joy, not my peace, not my future. Some people say forgiveness is freedom. Maybe one day I will reach for it. But right now, healing looks like distance, like choosing softness for myself and strength for the little sister who watches me, learning from every decision I make. Healing is knowing I am not my mother. I showed up even when it hurt, and I will keep showing up. Family isn't who shares your blood or who marries into it. It's who protects your heart, who stands beside you when the world fractures, who chooses you again and again without resentment or competition. I lost a stepmother. I kept a father, though cracked and learning, and I protected a little girl who deserves a sister, not a ghost. Maybe that is enough. Maybe that is victory.